Every time you get paid, before you see a single coin, someone already took their share. But here's what they never taught you in school. The rich get paid after their money works. You get paid before. That one difference costs you hundreds of thousands over a lifetime. This is the story of the fox and the tax collector. In the forest kingdom of Thornwood, the tax collector came every season. He was not evil. He was simply following the law. The law said, every worker must pay a portion of their earnings before they spend it. Felix the fox was a carpenter, a skilled one. He built chairs, tables, beds. He earned well. But every season, before he could pay for grain, before he could fix his roof, before he could save, the tax collector arrived at his door and took 40%. 40%. Gone. Before Felix chose anything. Felix was angry, but his anger was pointed in the wrong direction. He wasn't angry at the system. He didn't even understand the system. Robert Kiyosaki's rich dad explained it like this. Employees earn, get taxed, then spend what remains. But corporations spend first, then earn, then are taxed on what's left. That sequence, just that order of operations, is one of the greatest financial advantages in the modern world. On the other side of the forest lived Winston the wolf. Winston also made furniture. But Winston had done one thing differently 15 years ago. He had registered a guild. Not because he was rich. He did it when he had almost nothing. Just paperwork. Just a name on a charter. But because Winston operated through a guild, what we would call a corporation or LLC, the rules were different. When Winston bought wood for his workshop, that was a guild expense deducted before tax. When he traveled to a far village to deliver furniture, that was a guild expense deducted before tax. When he hired Felix's son as an apprentice, that salary was a guild expense deducted before tax. By the time the tax collector reached Winston's door, Winston's taxable income had been reduced dramatically. He paid tax on a fraction of what Felix paid tax on, and he had spent that money on real, useful things that grew his business. Felix worked harder every year and stayed the same. Winston worked smarter and compounded. One evening, Felix asked Winston, "How are we both carpenters, but you're building a second workshop and I can barely fix my roof?" Winston didn't gloat. He said, "Felix, do you know what sequence you were taxed in?" Felix stared. He never thought about it. Winston continued, "You earn, then they tax you, then you spend. I earn, then I spend on the guild, then they tax what's left. That difference, that sequence is everything." Felix was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "But I'm not rich enough to start a guild." And Winston said the most important words Felix ever heard. "Neither was I when I started one." Kiyosaki wrote that the three most powerful tools of the wealthy are corporations, knowing the tax law, and understanding debt. The employed man gives his money to the government first and lives on what remains. The business owner puts money to work first, pays for real expenses that build wealth, and then gives the government its much smaller share. You don't have to be rich to start. You have to be educated. The guild, the LLC, the business entity, is not a tool of the elite. It is a tool that anyone can pick up, but most people never do because school never taught them it existed. Next week, the donkey who worked his entire life and retired with nothing, and the goat who worked half as hard and never worried about money again. We're going deep on the pay yourself first rule and why your savings account might actually be keeping you poor. Hit follow. Every story we tell puts more money knowledge in your mind. MoneyMind Fables. Build the channel. On the water.